Okay, thank you for coming along tonight. It's been about 6 months since we've had a catch up as CPW with you as CPCLs, and the original purpose of tonight was to sort of go through services and cover a couple of new resources that we've got to help you in planning your services and projects at a collaborative level. So what we're going to do tonight is we will go through some development guidance, which some of you might have seen before, so we'll be fairly speedy in going through that. We'll introduce our service costing tool, the idea of which is going to be to help you in planning services so that there's not so much back and forth between ourselves and you in the process. We look at some collaborative proposals that are going through at the moment. We'll introduce a slightly updated CPCL form, which we hope will help you with record keeping. And if you wish to stay around for it, we've got the fantastic subject of flu and whiz, and then a couple of other little bits, and then just a general opportunity to sort of ask questions, have a chat. I've got you in until 8:30, and hopefully we can get through it in that time. If at any point there's any questions, pop your hand up, and we'll deal with them as we come. Okay, so the first bit of this is about service delivery. So obviously a part of collaboratives and clusters is looking for innovative services to help you improve the health and well-being of your local populations. There's been a lot more focus from within clusters to this. Am I back in the room? Right. So there's been a lot more focus on community pharmacy and the contribution in terms of the services and projects that we are looking at. So we've changed some of the ways we work in CPW to kind of speed that up and make it a bit more agile. In general, we're still not looking for collaboratives to be necessarily changing the world, and we still believe that the easiest wins for collaborative working are what is within our control already. So improving uptake within collaboratives and clusters of existing contractual services, and how can cluster working just make your day-to-day experience better. But as collaboratives and clusters become more mature, we expect them to maybe start to explore newer services and newer ways of working a little bit more. And a lot of the ideas for that can come from your IMTPs and PNAs. And we can, if anyone's not sure about that element specifically, pick up with me outside of that meeting, because I think as a group we've gone through that a lot, but it can be quite a complex area to go into. So outside of services, projects, new things, a lot of funding proposals that have been successful are things like face-to-face meetings, service promotion and advertising, and simple training things. So I think these are the sort of the nice easy wins that can utilize cluster funding, and it's always worth exploring these, particularly if you're trying to sort of get your feet under the table a bit as a CPCL, or maybe in a collaborative or cluster that maybe is a little less mature than others might be. But when it comes to cluster service proposals, there has to be a structure around how they are dealt with. So important to note that cluster money is health board money, but is intended for short-term innovation at the local level. So clusters will propose to the health board how their money is used at this local level, and the health boards can still say no to cluster projects. So it's really important that when we do come up with service proposals, that they align with health board priorities, with national priorities, and that they're costed appropriately, that they avoid duplication of work that is done elsewhere. You know, no health board wants to be double paying for work that is already done as part of a contract somewhere. And it's really important that we look at the evaluation of projects as they come through as well. One thing we've done in CPW is slightly amend the way in which we deal with these proposals. So previously, because of the structure within CPW, as a service comes into us, what we would have done is taken everything to our board for them to approve it before it comes back out to cluster. Trouble is, our board only meets once a quarter, so what we found was really that length of time between meetings. You know, sometimes you're looking at least 6 months before a decision could be made effectively on a cluster proposal. So our board decided that actually, as an exec team, that myself and my colleagues could take the lead on advising people on the majority of cluster services that come our way. So when a cluster service proposal comes through, we'll review what is available elsewhere. We would provide you with advice on the project and service in partnership with you as a CPCL and with the Health Board Community Pharmacy lead as well. So right from the off, we are working on this together to make sure that everyone's kind of pulling in the right direction. We'll discuss it as an executive team. Previously, that would have been the board. And then we might share that with certain board members or members of our expert panel, who are a group of people from across different organisations who can advise us on certain projects and services that we may not be familiar with. And then we'll go back to the collaborative lead. So we hope that the process we have now is much more agile than the process that we had previously. So again, with service proposals, the key thing here is that any additional activity that's not currently part of our contractual agreements needs additional funding from cluster. So collaboratives and pharmacies shouldn't really be signing up to do more work of any kind unless there's associated funding with it. And that funding really needs to be costed and approved through a correct process. So CPW have established processes and established costs for certain activities. And it's really important for the sort of integrity of that work across Wales that any services and projects that come through collaboratives and clusters are costed appropriately. So essentially, we're not doing things on the cheap, is what it is, because then that undermines work that might be done nationally. So this is why we make a really big thing about, as soon as you've got an idea, come to us and we can start working on what that might look like in terms of costing. But we've got a tool which will help you to answer some of those questions as well. Lots of considerations for pharmacy activity. I'm not necessarily going to go through them all. A lot of this will be covered in the service proposal tool, but you know, it's about who does it, how long does the activity take, what equipment and training is needed, and there's a lot of things to consider when we're looking at proposals. In terms of the resources that we've got for service delivery, we've got a couple of things on the website, which I'll go through in a bit more detail now. So there's a proposals template, which many of you will have seen before. That's existed for a number of years. This is something that just helps you in your early thinking to ask the right questions about the service, you know, in terms of who's delivering it, what's the benefit to the cluster, and in those early weeks of developing a service, the service proposals template will just help you clarify your thought around a service proposal. And we've got a costing tool and some guidance around that as well. So yeah, the service proposals template I'll go through in the next few slides, and it's on the website. You've got the link there, so it's on the CPCL section of the website. I will, of course, send these slides round after, and I'll put out a newsletter as well and update all the CPCL relevant links in that as well. But essentially, the proposal template asks a series of questions just to get you thinking about what the problem is that is you're trying to solve with the project. It talks about how you're going to look for engagement and support, tries to sort of talk you through the solution. And when you're using this tool, it's not a case that you have to answer all the questions, but it's just there as a prompt for you and your fellow professionals within the collaborative to sort of start thinking in the right way about what the benefits of the service might be to your patients and to you and to your cluster as well. And there's a few pages there. So I'm not going to go through that in much depth because, frankly, you can go look at it yourself and give me a shout if you need to, because no one wants me to go through all of that. The newest tool that we've got is the cluster service costing tool. And we've kind of built this to provide you with a rough guide as to what a cluster service might cost. It's not to be used sort of without still running the service past CPW, because there may be considerations within the service that we suggest that you might need to add on. But what I'll do now, I'll switch over to the costing tool, and we'll have a run through of it as to what it might look like for a typical service. So this costing tool is on the CPCL section of the website, and it's live now, so you should be able to play around with it now. But we'll share this window.
Yes.
Is that right? Should be able to see that. Someone give me a yes if they can.
Need to zoom in a bit.
Yeah. The meetings we need to have.
Can you see it okay or not?
Need to zoom in. Bit more. I'm old. Howdy.
Na, just to go den, yma. Dim touch to go den. Dim touch y cyfrifiadur, okay? Dim y giraffe, ti.
Right. Okay. So first thing about the service tool is there is a set of guidance down the bottom here. Runs you through again the main considerations for a local pharmacy service and the main things that you'd want to consider before you start entering data into the tool. Again, we're looking at the nature of the service, who undertakes the activity, how long the activity will take. So all of these things, when you start to get an idea of a service, you need to start to think about all of these elements as well before we look at, okay, how much might this cost, and then talk into the cluster about, where it might fit in the budget. So once you know roughly what that might be, you can come into the tool, and there are three possible areas that you might want to cost out for a service. So for every service or project, you might have initial setup costs. That might be some initial training. It may be equipment. It'll be sort of one-off costs that you're going to incur whilst setting up a given service or project. And that's captured here in this, obviously, initial setup box. You may have annual fees. So for projects that extend over a number of years, you might want to add in something that is that has an annual fee associated. Maybe there's an annual refresher training module that people who are delivering the service might want to do. So this is where those kind of costs would go in. Something like equipment maintenance might go into here as well. And then, of course, you've got the service fee per intervention. Again, if this is a service where you are delivering an intervention to patients, you want to make sure that you're being appropriately paid for that intervention. So what I'm going to do is this. I've tried to color code this, and I'm open to feedback on how it works for you in practice. But essentially, if it's green, you can change it. So let me let Edwin back in. So let's say we have a hypertension service, and we have some initial training for that service, and that might be 15 minutes per person. We've got a pharmacist delivering it, and this drop-down menu can change. So if it was a completely pharmacy technician-led, you can alter that, and what you'll see here is it alters the staff cost per minute to a total cost of activity here. But that's going to go back to a pharmacist for now. So say we've got a pharmacist and we've got 2 pharmacy technicians, both doing initial training at 15 minutes. And then we have equipment, an equipment cost for initial setup. So that might be a BP monitor, and that might be 20 quid, let's say. Maybe we've got an annual fee then for an ongoing blood pressure service, where there's another 15 minutes of time taken up, again by a pharmacist and by 2 pharmacy technicians to refresh their learning. We can pop that in there, and you see it's populating for each area your costs in the right hand column here in column I. And then we come to the service fee per intervention. So our activity costs is measuring BP, and that might take, let's say it takes 10 minutes because we're doing it 3 times, and we're doing the other things around that, and we would do that based on a pharmacist there. So 8.39 per intervention. And because most of these services are going to be limited to the number that you might do, maybe you'll do 100 interventions. So this can be capped at 100 interventions per year. We can put that figure down here. And what we'll get over here is a sort of annual cost of 865 quid for this service. That's just an example. I think, for certain services, you're going to have different things to consider. And this tool is very much a sort of a work in progress. So what we'd like you to do is, as services come up, go in, have a play with it, keep us in the loop about it. If we need to amend this tool, we can do to make it more user friendly, or if there's bugs in it, we can alter that as well. But hopefully this will serve as a good starting point for you in at least giving an idea to a cluster about how much a service or project is likely to cost them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just ask if there are any questions on that. A minute, I'm going to stop sharing it. Actually, no, I'll keep it up and I'll ask it, are there any questions? Oh, Rob, you said it says about that link. Is that on the costing tool?
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know if I have to log in to access it though. I'm not logged in, but when I click on it, that's where it goes to. That's okay.
Okay.
Just a
Fab.
quick,
Thank you for flagging.
that's all right. It's not related to this. So for pharmacists per minute, you've got 0.495. Is that a figure you guys have just plucked out of the air? Does it come off any kind of? That's £26 an hour, isn't it? About.
So Steve has done that, and I'm not sure how he's costed it out, but he's been responsible for doing it. So I got to say, don't know where it's come from. I think you've got that 4.95, but then you've also got your employment cost and fair return on top.
Yeah, no, you got.
Which then comes out as that. So that was a base cost. Then employment cost and fair return come on top then as well. So this is consistent with what we would use for costing a national service.
That's okay. So essentially what you're saying is £26 is what you guys are kind of putting as the base per hour. As
the base, but we would also expect a fair return.
Yeah. Obviously that's a percentage.
The costs on top as well. Yeah.
Because like my experiences of dealing with health boards and projects and things like that is they always ask about backfill, like time, backfill. What are you basing this figure off? Yeah. And so obviously it's kind of understanding that figure, because I can't remember what the health board rebate figure at the minute is, but they won't shift off that.
Yeah,
they all want to know how long is it going to take you. I think it's £36 an hour, and they won't pay anything off that. And so essentially you just have to say, well, it's going to take me 45 minutes to do it if you want to get paid.
Yeah, and you
24,
know, sometimes that this is part of the initial conversations that we can have is you know, how we ensure that we're getting paid appropriately for that service.
Yeah.
And it is frustrating, you know. I think they don't necessarily see the overheads at LHB level that are. Or they don't experience the overheads in the same way as a pharmacy contractor.
No, they just see it.
So you know, they just don't take it in. So it's a bit of a battle that we've got, but yeah, there are ways that we can present these things to make sure we get paid in the correct way. Barry.
Yeah, thanks. Alan, this saves me doing some work, doesn't it? That's for sure, because we're in the middle of now doing a hypertensive bid. How do we account for overheads, Ali? Because clearly they're a major part of the costing for any service that we're giving.
Yeah.
There's no elements. There's no elements at all in this, and as Rob quite rightly points out, you're going to say it's going to take an hour and a half to do something when it only takes you half an hour, because you've got to cover your costs somehow.
Yeah, and the tool will add on some of your cost in terms of, so if we look at, so we've got employment cost, and then the fair return covers some of those other overheads of just you know, being open and the ongoing maintenance of premises and those sorts of things. So that's what this fair return in column H does. In fairness, Steve does a much better job of explaining it down in the guidance here
Come on, I just have. Give over, Alex. Give over.
But if there's you know, queries when you start using it, come to us. And in some cases, you know, maybe this tool is not going to be perfect, you know, and there might be cases where we say, oh look, you know, actually, yeah, maybe that does feel a bit short. But this is a good starting point, because what we were getting before was it's difficult to know, to have even a ballpark figure, isn't it? And
Yeah.
clusters will want that before they can even start to explore it. So this is just there to try and get the ball rolling on that and get the right conversations happening from the off, really, and set you up to have meaningful conversations, rather than you going, oh, I don't know, I'll have to come back to you, and everything being pushed down the line. But I think the key thing is, you know, at the first sort of sniff of any kind of project or idea, come to us and to your community pharmacy health board leads, because they are all they are mostly well versed in this, and we will support you right from the off. And because we don't have to go back for the board anymore, hopefully we're more agile, and I hope that people who've experienced that lately would agree, but maybe we'll leave that for now. Gareth.
Oh, hi, Alan. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. Firstly, yeah, really good tool. I think it'll help loads in making, you know, the cost comparisons. I don't want to arc on about money with it, but I just wanted to flag up that GPs are costed at £266 per hour. So I really think we need to revisit that at CPW board level. We cannot sell ourselves that short. And that's the BMA official figure, that GPs are costed per hour, £266.
Noted. Thank you, Gareth.
Dentists are costed double us as well. Just to
Yeah,
take half as long to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's a national challenge, I think, funding for pharmacy, and yeah, we don't want to sell ourselves short. So noted. Yeah, thank you. Couple of questions in the chat. So can all pharmacies cluster be involved in the same service? I mean, they can be. When you're developing a service, the idea would be that there is a, we'll come on to it, actually. I'll pick it up now. I'll pick back up the presentation, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some of those questions there, and if not, you can come back at the end. Right, where was I? Okay, so service tool, yeah, so it's there for initial costings. Use it alongside the guidance document and the other service tool to make sure that all areas of setup, ongoing cost and activity considered. On there I put that it's in draft and ready for April, but that's obviously an old slide, so ignore that. But I will get that link fixed. So key point for services, you get an idea that might come from the cluster, it might come from a from yourself, from another individual within the collaborative. First thing is, you know, is there an appetite from pharmacies and contractors within that, within your collaborative? At that point, if there is an appetite to pursue this, you need to inform the health board and CPW, and we'll support you in developing that. We look at whether the service already exists. Is it being developed elsewhere? You know, is there something happening in the other end of the country that we might say, well, tell you what, let's hold fire on that for now, because the same thing is happening the other end of the country, and you know, we need to evaluate that first. Might be that we run things in parallel, but we need to. We will have that national oversight of what's going on then. Once we've come back to you, it's about discussing with cluster leads, non-pharmacy cluster members. Then, you know, is there interest from the cluster in a wider sense. You know, what are the barriers? What's the budget that the cluster have? You know, is this going to be a non-starter because there's no budget there? And what's the training, using the service proposal template to work through this, using the costing tool, checking with us before we get to a stage where we're providing a final costed proposal to the cluster. In terms of developing these services, it's important to remember that the people attending your meetings are more often than not contractors themselves. So whilst they will be the ones, the pharmacists and pharmacy technicians, having the regular contact with the patients, they wouldn't necessarily be in a position to sign up their pharmacy to a service, particularly for multiples. You know, people like Boots, Well, Rowlands, have people in other positions who will deal with that. So it's not just about whether the pharmacy professionals think that something is a good idea. There's always an aspect of, you know, what input has the contractor got. So we shouldn't be signing up pharmacies until we've got that go-ahead from the contractor themselves. Services do take time to develop. They take time to run through, and what we want to see from them is a proper evaluation process as well. There's no good us pumping money into something that runs for 6 to 9 months, but then has no evaluation, because from that, without an evaluation, we can't then say, okay, well, this worked, this didn't. We want to be able to evaluate an intervention and scale it up if necessary. So contact us early, use the pro formas, remember the importance of pricing correctly, use the tool and seek advice from us early, and don't agree to anything on behalf of others or before Health Board and CPW input. They're sort of the key things there. It is another spanner in the works, though, to all of this. There's something called the Health Services Provider Selection Regime Regulations, which seeks to ensure that health boards are appropriately procuring services and equipment and the like, to make sure that there's best use of, or most effective use of, public money. However, these regulations have been interpreted in a way by Welsh Government which isn't particularly clear in its interpretation, and ourselves and health boards are still trying to kind of work through what this means in terms of local services. You may or may not hear much about this through your clusters over the next year or so. So just to be aware that this might affect the ability of community pharmacy to even be commissioned for services in the next few months. And yeah, Rob has experienced this with a service that he's currently going through now. Yeah, we don't really know where we stand with it. We'll provide more information as we need, but this might come up in conversations. Don't worry too much about it until it does, I would say, but just kind of be aware and come to us and to your health board leads, and we'll kind of try and help you navigate it as much as possible. So that is the service tool. That'll be up by the end of the week. I'll get that link fixed to it. Yeah, as you get a chance to look through it, give me a shout if there's anything that you need help with. I've also something I was promising for about 4 years actually, is to have a summary of current and past collaborative service proposals on the CPW website. And I've managed to get something in some shape, which again will be shared on the website certainly by the end of the week. I'm going to share this with you. It's by no means complete, and for anyone who is involved in any of these projects, if you want more information added in here, if there's more information that you can add, please let me know and we will add it in. But I'm trying to make this a resource that people can go into, see what else is happening elsewhere, see if something similar to an idea that they've got is going on, and hopefully dip into the spec. So you'll see here we've got Rob and Cardiff North's Community Pharmacy Diabetes Screening Service. There's a little summary here of what it entails, a little bit on the current progress, and if you click that link, it'll take you direct to the service spec which has been developed for it. Again, this is a tool just for you to go in, have a look, see what else is happening, and start to develop things that would work for your cluster. Again, please come to us and the Health Board Leeds to help you with that process, particularly when it comes to writing specs. It's quite a specialised process, and it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all across all clusters either. So they may need amendment in different clusters. In here, there's some things, there's a BP service from 2023 in Hywel Dda. There's a bit about something that there was an idea for DFIBs outside pharmacies a few years ago. Didn't get anywhere, but it was a really, really good proposal. And there's a few different bits and bobs here as well. So I'm gonna, as things come in, I said this will be on the website. I'll keep it updated as new things come in or as there's new developments. And again, it's just another tool for you to use and to dip in and out of. And hopefully what we'll get to is a stage where this becomes a central repository for clusters to go into and take things off the shelf and translate into their own clusters, just making it a little bit easier for everyone to get going with projects, because a lot of the time the challenges across clusters are very, very similar. So that'll be up in its current format by the end of the week as well, by the end of Friday. Any questions on that? Good. Okay. Right. Next, CPCR report form. So the as hopefully everyone's aware, we ask for submission of the CPCR report form to ourselves and to the Health Board Leeds at the end of every quarter, just for you to sort of summarise your activity as a lead. And part of that is for PPV purposes. So when you are PPV, that will be your record that you've done the work that you've claimed the money for. But also there's an element there of us being able to see where there may be project proposals, ideas, issues, and hopefully to be able to support you in those as well. We have made some changes. I did this in conjunction with some of the Health Board Leeds. Again, it's not set in stone, always willing to change things, but the last form was quite wordy. this still is a little bit wordy, but hopefully only captures necessary information. Not very different. We've got the declarations at the start on the first page that you would fill in, you know, to same as what you'd put on NECAF. So you're still making a NECAF claim, but this just backs that up and, as I said, functions for PPV purposes. There's a section to record your ongoing actions. So from quarter to quarter, this would allow you to provide evidence of your ongoing action logs. And, you know, as actions are completed, they can be marked as completed and then dropped off with new actions coming on. What I've tried to do is split it into a page for your pharmacy collaborative meeting, your 1 a quarter, a page for your cluster meeting, 1 a quarter, and then additional pages for whatever other meetings you do, or if you do additional cluster or collaborative meetings, you could put them in there. But hopefully it just makes it a little bit clearer as to, you know, where to capture each of the relative meetings. That is on the website already. Let me know if there's any feedback. Otherwise, I'll send it out via email as well. No rush on, you know, doing it for this quarter submissions, but if by January submissions, most of them were on this, I think it would make it a little bit easier for certainly for us and the health board leads as well to keep an eye on everything that's going on. Right. So that is kind of the whistle stop tour of the service proposals things, and the report form. So before we go into a kind of additional items, which you can't stay around for, if it's up to you.
Aled, before you move,
Barry?
Aled, yeah, before you move off that form, that report form, believe it or not, we get the cluster minutes of the previous meeting 3 days before the next damn meeting. That's how stupid it is. So one of those sections there on there is going to prove very difficult to fill in. So are you happy if we just put as advised or whatever, or as minuted?
Yeah, that's fine.
We just don't have the information.
No, that's absolutely fine.
And
you know,
we can't get it. I don't know whether everybody else struggles with these minutes from cluster meetings or not, but ours seems ridiculous.
I was going to say I get mine the day before, but you just need to fill the reporting form in from the previous quarter. So I'll get the one in November. The minutes in November.
Yeah, but it's bloody silly then because it's way out of date, isn't it? It's
you know, and it goes to Aled.
I wouldn't worry too much about sort of capturing if you've got minutes from the cluster that are provided by the cluster of previous cluster meetings, which hopefully everyone has. I wouldn't worry too much about the detail on that. I mean, I think the thing that really we want to know are, you know, are there any major issues going on that you need help with within the cluster? But
Aled, don't make me laugh. I'm falling off my bloody chair here. I'm slumping under the computer.
But you know, you can always pick up the phone and tell me, drop me a message. That's fine. It's probably easier than putting it in a form. But also, I think the key thing for using that form is just having some way to capture your pharmacy collaborative meeting minutes. You know, that's the biggest thing, I think. Again, you don't have to use it, but I think that's probably our preferred option as CPW and as health board leads as well.
I'm laughing, Aled, because tomorrow night I'm giving us a talk on why Betsy Cadwallader is still in special measures.
No comment. Rob?
My issue is obviously timelines.
Hmm.
It just seems in pharmacy, and we have to go through a lot of hoops compared to my dental and optom and GP colleagues who just seem to be able to just send an invoice to the cluster and then get a check in the post.
Hmm.
And so it's going to get to the point that we're not even going to be involved in cross collab projects because it takes so long. Like only now in September have we found out how much money we've got available to spend this year.
Hmm.
And so we had
Yeah.
an estimate of what we thought we had, and that's what we've been basing this diabetes and. But it turned out we've got actually another 20 grand available, which is great. But the project's already been written, and so to unwind it and go back to the health board with a new project would just never get done in the time to do all the evaluation. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for pharmacy, it would have been going in June. And
Yeah.
the dentist, optoms, and GPs are going in a couple of weeks. It's not looking like pharmacy is going to be going until November, December. So if we want to be part of collabs, something's got to be done with the red tape around how we're done. Why they're all contractors. It's not like they're things. Obviously, I know there's legislation around pharmacy and contracting services and things like that that we take into account, but that's legislation that can be changed. If they want pharmacies to be involved in these projects, something's got to happen, because it's going to be the point that next time we go around for a cross collab project, they're like, there's no point getting pharmacy involved. I can advise, I can help.
Yeah.
We can be signposters and you can pay us a flat fee for that, but the actual delivering of services, it's just like, it's really, really hard. And why
Yeah.
do it?
And trying to, I think part of the challenge that we've had, and you'll know this from talking to Louise as well, is trying to get the cluster sort of architecture to understand how things should be done for community pharmacy in terms of payments and the like, in terms of, you know, okay, particularly for multiple contractors, you know, you want to be paying to the right place, and making sure that's accounted for appropriately, and yeah, that's something for us to work on.
I
Absolutely
understand
get
that.
it. We don't want it to be a barrier.
No.
So yes,
I understand that, but Specsavers don't seem to have an issue. I know they're a franchise, I suppose, but
yes, slightly different, isn't it?
but
in
yeah,
terms of
there
how
are
they're contracted.
multiples and slightly big companies, maybe not the size of Boots and Well and places like that, but as I say, they get to just send a check off.
Yeah,
just
but I think it's more of a the health boards understanding and the finance teams and cluster teams understanding what they need to do, as opposed to anything else changing from our side. But yeah, there's work for us and health board leads and strategic program to do, definitely.
My advice to the room is you need to be looking at projects for next year now. Don't even think about it. If you're trying to do one community pharmacy, you want to be planning for next April at the earliest and have it ready now, and you might get it in time to actually do it. Unless everything's ironed out. But I can tell you, every single time you think you're there, it's something else appears.
Yeah, and you need to know what the budgets, you know, are likely to be as well, because I know that's been a struggle for some people at this meeting, is you know, in cluster sharing budgets, everyone should have sight of cluster budgets. If that's not the case, please let us know, and your community pharmacy lead at the health board know as well, and we can sort of pursue that on your behalf, because we can't be expected to contribute to the collaborative unless we're treated as an equal partner as well. So I am now going to go on to my favourite topic of the moment, flu and Wiz. Right, so The adult flu vaccine season starts on the 1st of October for the majority of people. Obviously, health and social care workers who are not in another at-risk category, and pregnant women are able to be vaccinated right now. I think everyone will be aware of the various issues with Wiz. Wiz was introduced across the board for primary care because the idea was it would provide one system for everyone. It would be make it easier to move around the centrally procured stock that Welsh Government were providing this year. It's not working, is it? As well as it should be. We are aware that there are a number of issues with it. Citrix is currently the only way we can access it. And the Citrix environment is very slow for Wiz. So I've been in daily contact with DHCW Wiz team for the last 3 or 4 weeks around this issue, trying to get it resolved. They assure me that by the 1st of October, there will be a resolution to it. I'm reserving judgment on that. It may be worst case scenario, we will still have access via Citrix. And again, worst case scenario is the speed will be the same as it is now. What I hope will happen is that we can get it working in the off Citrix environment. So there was a testing period today, which was unsuccessful, but we are at that stage where they believe they have a fix for community pharmacy, and we're looking at testing it now over the next few days to hopefully get that over the line. The main things for people at pharmacy level is make sure that you've got your accreditation sorted, that you've signed your PGDs, and that you've had that confirmation back from shared services. So once you've had your accreditation back from Paula Curry or Paula Bainbridge, saying that you're fully accredited and you've got access to Wiz, you should be able to get onto Wiz. You'll have to access it via Citrix, so via the same platform as you use for Choose Pharmacy. And guidance has gone out in our newsletter, but there's guidance on our flu section of our website on that as well. If you still can't access it at that point, then it's a call to the help desk. There have been known issues with people only having one location listed, one health board. That should be resolved for the majority of people. What we found out yesterday was that anyone who was accredited prior to the 1st of September was only listed for one. They've said that they will change that by the end of the week. So certainly if by Friday you're still showing as only having one location, please raise it with the primary care help desk and drop me an email as well, just so I'm aware, so I can make sure that I'm relaying that to the project team at Wiz as well. There are contingency paper forms for situations where Wiz isn't available. So if people are in pharmacies and they absolutely cannot get into Wiz for technical reasons, or if during the season Wiz goes down, there are paper forms which can be used to record the daily temperature checks, the stock checks, and as an absolute last resort, vaccinations as well. Obviously, if you're going to be recording vaccinations and stock on paper, they will then need to be added into Wiz as soon as you do have access to it. So really wouldn't recommend paper forms for vaccinations unless there's absolutely no other way of doing it, or if you're doing off-site with a Wi-Fi access or the like. There's a little bit of accreditation. Hopefully everyone's up to speed on accreditation. Any questions on Flu or Wiz? Mohammed.
I'm sorry, Alan. I've got my questions about COVID. We've had an email in one of the pharmacies in the area to say they are okay to go ahead for COVID jabs. But they've asked me a few questions that obviously, as far as I'm aware, we've never ever done COVID jabs in community pharmacy in Wales before. So it's all new to me. But I'm not sure if you know anything about it in terms of the I know that.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
Go on. No, go on. Sorry.
I just want to know that I know there is a BGD on it, and there is also a delivery start date which will be around beginning of October as well. But apart from that, I don't know really much about it.
Yeah. So COVID has been. Pharmacies in certain health boards have done it for a number of years. It's not across all health boards. What Betsy did this year was they went out to and offered all pharmacies the opportunity to do it. I think a number took them up on that opportunity. So for a lot of pharmacies, it is new. I'm not too close to it because it is being run as a local. At a local level by the immunisations teams. I know that Ellen Lanham has been quite close to it, and Kylie Ben-Sassi, who's the vaccination lead, has sent out some details on it. I mean, are you delivering it from your pharmacy, or have you had questions from pharmacies about it?
No, I've had a question from a pharmacy in the cluster about it.
Okay. I mean, I would. I would refer them to the BCU vaccination team, or to you are in Betsy, aren't you? Yeah,
I am. Yeah, I am Betsy.
Yeah, so refer them to either the BCU vaccination team, so Kylie Ben-Sassi, or actually probably in the first instance to Hannah or to Ellen, because they'll be closer to it than I am. But yeah, I think don't feel it's part of the thing in the role. I think it's very easy for people to see you as a contact, but if you're not sure, please move people on. And actually, I think for any local or health board wide services, it's always better to refer them to the local health board community pharmacy team, or you can refer them into us then as well directly. So yeah, just don't feel like you gotta pick it up. Is that okay?
Thank you.
No worries. Becky.
Hiya, can you hear me? Sorry, I'm driving home.
Yes. Yeah.
I know you said about the if we had paper records, we then had to put them on afterwards for the vaccinations. Are we if we're doing paper records for the daily stock levels and the fridge temperatures, are we expected to put them on with the next day?
Not for fridge temps.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a day, then it's probably, if it's a day you're missing, then it's probably just as easy. Can you hear me? Okay, for everyone else on the call, if you've got a day of fridge temps and that's all you've recorded that month, I guess it's fairly easy to put that on retrospectively on with. But what we wouldn't expect you to do is to go back weeks and weeks, putting days and days worth of fridge temps on. Stock levels are different, so the Wiz system needs to know your stock levels. So you'll have to put the stock on retrospectively, and you need to put vaccines on retrospectively. If you are keeping any paper records, and particularly of fridge temperatures that don't go on to WIS, I would suggest keeping them for a minimum of 2 years for inspection by the health board. As to whether you can put on retrospective fridge temperatures, I don't actually know, is the honest answer. And if you can't,
I don't think you can.
Don't. So if you can't,
Yeah, I
ignore
don't
me,
either.
and yeah, that's fine. Just keep the paper records then.
Can you put retrospective stock checks on as well? I don't think you can backdate them.
If you can't backdate them, I guess it's just about putting them on
Yeah.
on the day that you have access. It's just more about the system knowing what stock you have, I guess. And the health board teams, the immunisation teams, should be aware of the issues we're experiencing. I know that some pharmacies have had phone calls from immunisation teams, and we've taken that up with the appropriate people. Yeah, if in doubt, keep the paper records. But just try and get the stock and the vaccines on as soon as you can. And PMR system logs my temps. Do I still need to use paper? No. If you've got another log and you're doing that twice a day, Kasia, then it's just about having it's having a record that you can show people that you've maintained that cold chain, really. Any other questions on flu and WIS before we move on? Cool. Okay, just a quick one on UTI. Hopefully everyone is aware UTI becomes a mandatory part of the CAS service from the 1st of October. For anyone who hasn't completed training, it is online at a TDusky. If training isn't complete as a pharmacist, you will lose access to the to the common ailments module on Choose Pharmacy. So when you log on, you won't be able to deliver any common ailments. So it's really important, even if you are an IP and the majority of your UTI consultations are done via IP, that you do that UTI PGD training. And make sure that any pharmacists who regularly work for you, locums, that they're all signed up to it as well, because what you don't want to do is have a couple of days off and not be able to deliver any CAS because they've not completed the necessary training. Just a quick slide on collaborative working. So hopefully everyone's aware collaborative working is probably the only bit of the contract that really has rolled over without pausing this year. So meetings can be attended by technicians or pharmacists where they discuss clinical services, but where they discuss EPS, periods of treatment, or non-clinical things, they don't have to be attended by a registrant. So that might be a non-registrant pharmacy manager who could deliver those. The only difference in this year's scheme to previous years was that there's a requirement by the 30th of September to have at least one meeting with a healthcare professional, a GP practice locally that covers sore throat and UTI. So I would just make sure that in your documentation of that meeting that you have covered the fact that you've discussed those items. You can make up to 6 claims. That includes making claims for attending your own pharmacy collaborative meetings. So when you hold your pharmacy collaborative meetings, make sure that you're also claiming for attendance at that meeting as well. We've got lots of resources on the website as well to help you in delivering those. Mohammed?
Sorry, Alan, just a quick one. Some of the pharmacies in my cluster, they deals with surgeries in England. Now with the EPS, it make it easy. Will they
Yeah.
get paid if they go to the surgeries in England and have a meeting with them, or does it have to be in Wales?
Yeah, that's fine as long as it's a local practice. That'll be fine.
Thank you.
In terms of the sore throat and the UTI service, we did a couple of crib sheets, which hopefully you've seen before, which just contain all of the information that you need to discuss with surgeries when discussing both of these services. Claiming for collaborative meetings caused a little bit of trouble last year because NECAF isn't clear. We had asked for this to be altered in April, and the development work was going to be alongside all of the other development work for this year's agreed contract. As you'll be aware, we haven't agreed a contract for this year, so that development work hasn't happened. So in the interim period, when you are doing collaborative meetings with another healthcare professional, just make sure you click in the healthcare professional button on here, and when you're claiming for attendance at your own collaborative meeting, make sure you click in the cluster lead meeting button here. Something that a lot of pharmacies that aren't collaborative leads are doing is they're going on to here, they're saying, well, I'm not a cluster lead, I'm a healthcare professional, and they put in all of their attendance at collaborative meetings with you guys down as healthcare professional meetings. If they do that, they're not going to achieve the bonus payment for getting the right mix of meetings. So it's just something to be aware of. And we have circulated this in the newsletter. I think we'll put it in again, but maybe just something to flag to your pharmacies at your meetings. And then the only other thing I wanted to touch on is the Welsh IG Toolkit is open for completion. Many of you will have DPOs or will be part of pharmacies where this is done centrally, but that is open now to be completed by the end of March next year. Clinical Governance Toolkit's open in January, and there are a number of IG Toolkit drop-in sessions for people who wish to attend them, or if you want to flag it to your DPOs as well, they can attend those. And that's it from me. So